What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassity. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back, Nightmare Success In and Out listeners. This is where you come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? Folks, don't forget to follow, subscribe, share this thing out, like it up. It helps the show. It really does help the show. So who are we talking to today? Well, I've got Donald Hinton, and I was just telling him before we got on here, I ran across a video of him talking about who's Donald Hinton. And I thought, wow, this is an incredible story. This is inspiring. It's not a straight line up to success. It is a gritted out, figure it out story that I really like. And I love what he's doing now. He's an owner of Second Chance LLC. He's an author of the book, Prison to Properties. He's a speaker. And the real estate investor side of it, we're going to talk about because I think it's really cool on how he's been able to do that and just stepped right into it and just kept going. Before we get into all that, I want to recognize our show sponsor, Auto Plaza Direct, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots, looking for a car. Then you spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge. The new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Welcome in, Donald Hinton. How are you?
Man, I'm good. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. We were just talking before we got on here. We've got a couple of strange shared experiences here of our dads that I don't know if a lot of people would have, but one of the things that really caught my attention, Donald, is at 5 years old, your dad goes to prison. And take us back a little bit into your world growing up as a kid. Mom, dad, siblings, what was it all like?
All right. So growing up, it was since I was about 5, so I never got to know him for real. And before that, he had did like 3 years. So when I was born, he wasn't there. He was out for a minute, and then whenever I was 5, he got sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. So I never seen him like outside of the walls until I got outside of the walls. So I was about 32 when I seen my mom and my dad together and hugged them. So growing up, it was just my mom got 3 kids. One of my brothers, he went to go live with his auntie. So it was just me and my sister growing up. And my mom was, dabbling in drugs and stuff. So we ended up getting into foster care. My auntie took us in and my grandma took us in, bouncing from home to home. So it wasn't a stable home. It was just
What was that like for you, Donald?
it
Like
was
from bouncing from home to home, being a kid. I mean, being a kid's kind of tough anyway. You're trying to just figure out your way. How were you taking all that in as a kid?
it was normal
Normal.
where we
You
come
didn't
from.
know anything different.
Yeah, it was normal. So it was like everybody don't have a dad. So it's like it wasn't it wasn't nothing significant.
Yeah.
But so when you don't know it, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So you don't know that everybody don't got dads. They all gone. So it's normal growing up around all women and things like that. So there's no father figures in our lives besides our older cousins
Right.
and our uncles and stuff like that. So it was just life. So
What was school life like for you? Were you having to bounce around to different schools? Were you staying in the same school? Like how did that all play out for you?
Yeah, so I think we left my mom whenever we was about maybe 8 or 9. That's kind of the age range. So we
Mhm.
left her, went with my grandma, left my grandma, went with my auntie. So yeah, we were changing schools like that, but it wasn't like school wasn't like a big issue because my grandma and my auntie, they were older women, so they'll make sure you're on the right path. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean? They ain't gonna let you going to school every day even if you sick type.
Right.
So school wasn't nothing like that. So I was a good student. I even went to college for 2 years, so it wasn't like I was just a truant the
Yeah.
whole time. Nah, it was after I left with my mom. So I was like 16 when I moved out on my own. Me and my cousin got our own apartment out in the projects. So
Mhm.
that was it started when I was about 14, but that was whenever it really kicked off.
So you get your own place, 16 years old, which is not 18 years old, it's not 20 years old, that's 16 years old.
hmm
You're in the projects. What does your life turn into with that situation?
I was 16, but I was grown. So so it's like I gotta pay bills now.
Right.
So even though our rent is only $40 and light bills is 200, I'm 16, she 18, so we kids, you know what I mean? So she telling me to go to school, but I'm like, you ain't my mama. So it was like I go to school when I want to, and um, I think I started, smoking and drinking at about 14.
Yeah.
So when I was 14, my grandpa died, and we went to his funeral in Little Rock, Arkansas. So I met the other side of my family down there, and I was smoking already. So we was down there smoking and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to come back and get some more of this. So when I turned 16, I had a job as a dishwasher, and I took that money and went to Little Rock and started doing that. So I transferred straight to the streets at about 16 and just went. It was a roller coaster from there.
Did you feel like, Donald, that because you had some foundation with your aunt, your grandma, mom, did it feel like when you got out into the street life, did you kind of feel like you were straddling the fence or did you just dive right into that life?
Yeah, I jumped straight off the porch, head first, jumped into the streets. So by us learning that lifestyle earlier, like my grandma and my auntie both had husbands, we had a family, we sat down and ate dinner.
Hmm.
By us seeing that at a young age, I think it like molded me,
Hmm.
but I was still too young for it to solidify. So I got the mold of a good young man, but
Well,
um,
I think it's interesting though that you, even though you were living that lifestyle, you found yourself 2 years into college. How did you step into that?
so college came whenever I moved away.
Okay.
So living down there in the projects, they tore down the projects. I was about
Where's
I,
this at? Where were you
it,
growing up?
I was growing up in Alton,
Alton,
Illinois.
Illinois, right, yeah, right across over
Yeah,
from where I'm at. Yeah,
yeah. So
I'm
it's
here.
it's
I'm here in
over.
St. Louis.
Yeah, so it's right there by you. It's 20 minutes from
Yeah,
St. Louis.
yeah.
So it's not a good environment for real. But they tore down the projects, and I moved up to Iowa with my auntie, with another auntie, and that's where went to try to straighten my life out. And I ended up graduating high school and going to college for 2 years, and then I ended up catching a case up in Iowa. It was for some weed, and they gave me probation, and
Okay.
I ended up messing up on probation. And that right there put out a warrant for my arrest. And when they put out the warrant and got me, I ended up having some more stuff with me and a gun with me. And that was how I ended up going to do federal and state time.
Okay, so that's a lot. We need to unpack that, Donald. So you kind of you got into a deal. You got probation, and then when you got the warrant, then they picked you up, you had a gun, but you ended up getting that much time on that, because was it, I forget what it was. It was
90 months.
90 months federal time.
Yeah. So they give
That's,
you six. If you got guns and drugs, it's a bad connect. It's a bad
they don't
mixture.
like that. Right.
Yeah. So I had crack also. So I had a gun. A gun carried 5 years mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then they'll give you the extra time for the amount of drugs you had.
Mm-hmm.
So they put it all together. That was 60 months for the gun, 30 months for the dope, and then I had to do 2 years for a probation violation. So they did
Put it
those.
all in.
Yeah, they did those concurrent, and I had to do one and then go do the other. So that's how I ended up getting so much time.
What were you thinking? I mean, how old would you have been?
You said, how old was I?
Yeah. How old would you when that would have been happening?
I was 23 whenever that happened.
So that's a
So
lot to look at 23 years old. What was going through your mind when they laid you down with that sentence?
I was still young and dumb. So the thing that the guy said to the police said, you got to go do at least 5 years. You need to tell on somebody. And I told him, I got time to kill.
You had
So
time
that
to
was
kill.
that was my mindset back then, just like, oh well, so that was I
Where'd
didn't
you go?
understand. You don't
Where'd you,
understand.
where did you head off to for federal prison?
Um, I did 2 years in the state of Iowa, and then the first place I went was Oxford, Wisconsin.
Okay. What was it like?
So coming from the state, I was in a lower security.
Hmm.
So we didn't have locked doors and things like that. So when I went to Oxford, Wisconsin, they had the locked doors, they had the control movements and things like that. I wasn't used to it, so I'm in there like, man, what the? I don't deserve this. I just got caught with a gun. Why y'all got me all locked up? And you gotta get down and lay down in a certain group and things like that. Like, man, I ain't in no gang. Why I gotta be with y'all? I don't even know y'all. So it was just politics, and to this day, I don't like politics for that reason.
Right. So, because I thought the thing that was, everybody has a certain part of their story where if they hit a rock bottom and where they come from and where they start working their way back. I think yours came with a visit.
hmm
Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, man. So, like I said, my dad did 20 years in a federal prison. So he was actually in Oxford, Wisconsin, and I went to go visit him there. So one day, my son came to visit me. At this time, I was locked up for 3 years already.
Okay.
So one day, my son came to visit me. He's been visiting me, but this particular time, it did something to me because it was the same exact visiting room that I visited my dad at.
Mm.
So that right there, just I don't know if it was just like me getting older in age. 3 years later, I'm waking up like this is not for me. So by me seeing my son in that same exact visiting room,
Mm.
it broke me down, man. I ain't gonna lie, that was the first time I cried while I was in prison because if I if I didn't change, he would be in the same he would be in the same prison.
Right.
So I ended up putting down James Patterson, getting away from the TV, and just educating myself on what really mattered when I got home.
Was that hard to do in prison? Because I know that, there, like you said, there's a lot of politics in prison, and people, you run with your car and the certain people that you're with. You had to probably break from all that
Oh,
and
yeah.
do a
Yeah.
whole different way of doing your time.
Yeah, so everybody wants you to come out to the yard at a certain time and come we sitting over here and things like that. But nah, I was in the library. I was, in my room or sitting out in the day room reading something. I wasn't in the TV room watching TV when Love and Hip Hop come on.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, I changed, man. I got distant, because it's real now, So I got to change. I don't know what else to do to keep him out of here. So I got to change
Change
me
yourself.
so he can see that it's another way.
What? and I meant to ask you this when you were talking about your dad, but did you have a relationship with your dad while he was serving his time? And did you guys, as a father and son, was there was there something there between you guys as you were getting older and he was doing his time in prison and getting older?
Yeah, man. So it wasn't nothing like solid. You know, he'd call once a month and
Yeah.
we'd talk, and he'd write a letter every once in a while. Like I said, we went to go visit him once or twice, but it wasn't like a real connection. You know, like we not talking every day and stuff like that. So it really wasn't a connection. But now that we older and stuff, yeah, he's still my dad. I still love him, and he's still there for me. He helped me whenever he can. But um, it wasn't nothing like that. So
Yeah. So when you start getting close to, I mean, because I mean, you did some time. I mean, when I got my sentence, it was 5 years, and I thought, man, that's 60 months. And 90 months is basically double that, um, almost double that.
mm.
Did you have any strategies and things that you did while you were in prison that, because there's bad days in prison. I mean, there's tough days in prisons. Did you have a way that you walked through all that?
So yeah, like one thing that my dad did do was when I was in the county jail, he was getting out whenever I was going in, like literally, like he
Wow.
got out like 2 months before I went in. So they basically switched us. But one thing he said while I was in the county jail was, "Man, start you a store,"
Mm,
and like that right there was like the best advice a father could give a son in this in this
yeah.
position. You know what I mean? So I did. That's what I did. I started the store, and I would sit in my room and read. People would knock on the door and get honey buns and cakes, and that was how I did my time.
Yeah.
So then I got transferred to Lexington, Kentucky. So this was a lower facility
Hmm.
where
Also medical, isn't it?
it's a
Yeah.
medical facility. So it still ran like a medium,
Hmm.
but it's still slower. So there's no locked doors and stuff like that. But it's a lot more going on. So anything you want in these lower camps, like phones and all of this stuff,
Yeah.
you can get there.
Right.
So if whatever type of time you trying to do, you are able to do. And there, I wanted to educate myself, and I wanted to stack some money. So I worked Unicore
Hmm.
in the day, and then when I came home,
For
I
those
ran.
that don't know what Unicore is, again, for those listening down the Cayman Islands, that is uh, it's like a big factory almost. You know, they take and they disassemble things. A lot of things come from all the federal buildings in our government, and it comes to that area, and they take it all apart and they sell those parts and do whatever. But the one place where that's a job where get people can get paid more. You know, the but you know it's kind of like a factory job in prison. Like my job in prison, I worked at the food warehouse, and you know we fed 2,200 people, and you know we had forklifts and all that. This Unicore, and I think you were an accountant or something like that at Unicore. So I mean, it's like you're walking into a business every day, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what I tell people about Unicore is, those old movies whenever they making the license plates and stuff,
yeah, yeah.
that's prison slavery, and it's still going on
It's going
today.
on today. That's right.
So if you look like, where do they get these clothes from? The inmates make them. Where do they get all of this stuff from? The inmates make them. The FBI, they order chairs and stuff
Yeah,
like that. Like, we are the ones processing this stuff.
yeah.
So
I was
anything with the government.
I was just watching a thing, Donald, that was somebody sent me that it was on CBS this morning, and it was a prison in up and around Seattle, and they make prison. Let's see, it's called Prison Blues, and so they make all the jeans for everybody in the state system there. But it's also a popular brand on the outside that's very popular in Japan. So this is like a big going business, and all these guys in there are making these jeans, but even though it's pretty much like slave labor, they love the fact that they can get out and kind of feel like they're doing something, that feels productive.
Yeah, man. So I did it in the state too. It's called IPI in the state. We made all of the dorm room furniture for the
Yeah.
Iowa colleges.
Yeah.
So like I learned woodworking in the state prison, but yeah, in the feds I was the accountant. So I was selling drugs on the street, learning the business,
Right.
and then whenever I went to the feds, they put me at a desk where I learned Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and stuff like that. So now I'm an actual accountant where I'm doing invoices and things like that. So now, not only do I know the how to make the money, I know how to
How to count
really,
it.
yeah. So, so
With
that was
software.
my job, man. So,
That's wild. So
I ended up saving like $10,000 doing that.
that's a lot, because that's still, you don't get paid a lot of money to earn $10,000.
Yeah,
That's a lot of stamps.
yes, sir. Yeah.
For those who don't know, in the federal system, and it's maybe different in some prisons, but most prisons it's stamps. And because we don't have money, the money is stamps. And so, like, if you go to, you want a soda, it's maybe a couple of stamps. If somebody's made like a cheeseburger or something, it's, maybe it's 4 or 5 stamps. The economy and the underground economy in prison is stamps. And I'm sure if you had honey buns in a shop in a store, you had a lot of stamps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was. They used to say, "Man, you were prison rich,"
Yeah.
and I didn't understand it until on the till you looking in from the outside, like, dang, you got $500 and you in prison. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's only $500, but some people don't have $5, So
Yeah.
yeah, I was literally rich up in there.
You were prison rich. Well, I want to talk about the time that you started thinking about, after all that time that you had to think, but when you got closer to the door, 6 months out. I want to get and talk about that. Before we do, I want to take a break here. Recognize, a lot of people don't like how they show up online. Many people think there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation online. Well, there's hope out there. It's called the Discoverability Company, and they can help you. Whether you're building a reputation from scratch or you're repairing a search results after a new negative news story, Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. They're even launching a do-it-yourself SEO option, a course for individuals who want to take on their search results on their own budget and speed. Listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off the DIY SEO course with the coupon code Nightmare Success. And I also want to say that Nightmare Success podcast is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group. It's the world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white collar criminal justice system. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I can tell you this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you've made it through to the other side, this is a great space for you. You can join us on Zoom Mondays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. For information, go to prisonist.org. That's prisonist.org. So, Donald, you get in, you've kind of made your life in there. And, there's a weirdness that happens when you're in prison for a while. You start thinking, okay, I'm in this routine here. I know everything. I'm doing everything that's part of my routine. But then it gets time to start thinking about, oh my gosh, I've only got 6 months, and how am I going to jump back into society? What was going through your mind when that time was approaching you?
We all nervous because it's new beginnings. But the thing with me was I planned it. Like I literally wrote down what I'm gonna do. I'm about to get into the stock market. I'm about to get into real estate. This is what I'm about to do. I'm not going back here. I'm going here. Um, Everything I could, like I would look in anytime I could, I would get a newspaper about Iowa, about Davenport, Iowa. I never been here before. I didn't know nobody here, so I'm in the newspaper and asking these guys on the compound, where should I go? What should I stay away from? They like, yeah, just stay away from 14th Street and things like that. So it's just things like that. That's how I prepared myself for a new beginning. I was gonna get dropped off and I was gonna sink or swim.
It's interesting too. You didn't go back to Alton. You went to Davenport, Iowa. How did you make that? Or I mean, that's really starting new. What? How did you make that happen?
So what happened was I caught my case in Iowa.
Okay.
So I had to go back to the state if I didn't have a residence.
Okay.
So I didn't have a residence and I wasn't going back to Alton or the town I got caught in.
Mm-hmm.
So Davenport was the closest place to my kids that had a federal halfway house. So I could have went here or I could have went to the Iowa City and that's more of a college town, but I didn't want to go that far, so I went here.
So what was it like getting out? The whole stepping out into the new world.
It was exciting because like I'm adventurous. Like I said, I used to go down to Little Rock when I was like 16. I used to just hop on a train and go to this big old city. I'm from Alton. That's 30,000 people.
Right.
Going to a 500,000 people city, that was exciting for me. Going into the unknown. I used to get in cars with people I didn't know, like danger, like
Yeah.
how, like stupid. But coming to Davenport, it was the same thing. Like, I'm about to get dropped off in this city. I'm about to thrive. You know what I mean? That was my mindset. So I got around the people that had the same mindset as me. I couldn't get drugs if I wanted to because I didn't know nobody here. So I went to the
Well,
first person I knew.
you found a landlord that you had a conversation with. Can you share how that all happened?
Yeah, man. So in the halfway house, I had to go 4 months in the halfway house. So in there, it was a list of felon friendly landlords.
Mm-hmm.
And dude's name was on the list. So it was just a
Which
random
is, by
call.
the
I
way,
called,
that's hard to find. Felon-friendly landlords.
yeah. So I just called him and I was like, I'm about to get out the halfway house. You got property? He was like, yeah, I need first, last, and a deposit. I think he charged me like a lot, but it was a 1 bedroom apartment, and he came to the halfway house to get the money. Like he about money though, but um, we just got to talking. Like I think I was meeting him. I met him at the library to sign the lease,
Okay.
and I was excited because I was in the stock. This was back in 2019, 20,
Okay.
whenever Donald Trump was first in the office, and he would say something about tariffs and the stock market to go and then go right back down. I was making so much money whenever that was happening. So I was at the library and I was just talking to him like, man, you in the stock market, man? Look, I just made $500 today. And he's like, what? And he couldn't believe it. So I was like, yeah. So I asked him, hey, you got a property you want to sell? And he was like, it was during COVID. So I think that's how I got lucky. I don't know, but it was a lady, she wasn't paying. He wanted her out. I think he was just tired of it.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just like, I'm just about to sell the building. And here I come. I'm like, I got $10,000. You got a building you want to sell? So that was cha-ching.
Donald,
So
I don't want to gloss over what you just talked about there because that the fact that you went and asked him, a lot of
mhm,
people think, I'd love to own something, or I'd love to get into, own a duplex or own a build, but you got to find the opportunity.
mm,
And you kind of felt around that and you just asked him and the opportunity was there
yeah,
and you had some
yeah.
dollars.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I actually got a course where I teach this stuff, and that's the first step, finding the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, do you got a property? Like most people don't have a property because they never asked somebody to sell a property,
Exactly.
or they heard somebody saying my grandma trying to sell her house, and it was Chinese to them,
Mm-hmm.
so they didn't hear the opportunity.
Right.
So yeah, man, I asked him. He had one, and it all went through like it was supposed to.
So getting a property, how did you work that into, because I think if I remember right, Donald, you got that property and I think you got into did you get another property within that time, a couple of properties, and then another nightmare falls on you?
Oh yeah. So I got this property. So now it's a duplex. So I'm living in one, and my tenant is paying most of the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
I got a nice paying job. It was one of the highest paying jobs in this city. So I'm making good money,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm living for
What kind of
free.
job were you doing?
A factory job. It's
Factory
called
job.
Sterilite. Sterilite. They make those plastic totes that you put your underwear and clothes
Oh
in.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we was making those. So I was making like $20 an hour
Mm-hmm.
coming out of prison,
That's
coming
good.
off of a $2 hour job.
It's a
So
big price increase or income increase.
I was rich on the streets
Mm-hmm.
now. So uh, so I was saving all of my money, 401k and all of this stuff. And like I said, it's Chinese. Whenever it fall on their ears, we was giving a lady a ride home from work one day, and she was like, "I'm trying to sell my house." So it wasn't Chinese to me. I said, "What you trying to sell it for?" She said 25,000. At this time, I had been studying real estate so long, I knew how to analyze a property.
Mm-hmm.
So you just go online, see where the property at, what it's worth, and all of these things. And I told she said 25,000. I knew it was worth more than 25,000. So I said, yeah, let me buy it. And at this time, I was like a year out, so I didn't have everything a bank would require.
Mm-hmm.
So backtrack a little bit. My landlord sold me this property on contract. So a contract is basically an agreement that, hey man, I'll give you the 80,000. It was 95,000. Basically, like, I'll give you the rest of the 85,000, but I need it back in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the contract is, and he sold it to me like that. So that's how I got
So
it.
basically, he becomes the bank.
He's the bank.
Right.
He's the bank, but he won his money in two
Contract
two
for
or
deed.
3 years.
Right.
Yeah, a balloon payment is what they call it. So that's how I got the property 4 months out of prison. So now I'm a year out of prison, and this lady she says that she want to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I don't have the job history. I got good credit and I got the money, but a bank still won't lend on that.
Right.
So my girlfriend and I, we co-signed on it, and then we ended up getting the other property. So now I got another property, right? And then I'm celebrating, having a good time, and I catch a DUI. So it was my son's birthday. My sister come in town, and we just out there having fun. And um, I just was, too comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I ended up catching a DUI. It was my fourth DUI because I used to drink a lot back before I got went to prison.
Yeah.
So it was my fourth. So they ended up giving me like 30 days in jail for it.
Man, that just had to be, and for a lot of people could be a thing that just sends you into a spin and you don't get out of it. And you didn't do that. You got in and thought, man, I'm going to get myself so right. I'm going to even start writing a book.
hmm So yeah, man. Whenever that happened, it could have sent me into a spiral, but it just opened my eyes. Like, man, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, uh, I feel like it's a purpose. Like God put me here for a purpose. I got a purpose that I'm supposed to be fulfilling. It now you out here drinking and having fun. No, we're gonna sit you down for a minute. So during that 30 days, I ended up coming up with a book. I wrote a book called From Prison to Properties.
For
And it's
those who can't see that, because anybody who's watching on Spotify, YouTube, you can, and you can get it at Amazon because I just looked it up.
yeah. So yeah, I put it on Amazon, and basically I had three properties at the time. So I'm like, yeah, I know something that I could sell. It's a product. I was selling products before I went to prison. It was
Yeah.
just a wrong one.
Right.
So I'm not gonna kill my community. So now I'm like, let me create a product that actually helped my community.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this book, and um, just started educating people, just telling them what I know. Like, man, I'm living for free, man. The only thing you got to do is, I hate when people say the only thing you got to do, but it's literally the only thing you got to do.
Well,
Yeah.
and you and I were talking a little bit about, um, you've connected with Kardell Sims
Hmm.
and Aaron Smith, both Nightmare Success alums that have been on here. They do a lot of, I call Cardell Sims the vision board man. He's all
Hmm.
about the vision board, and he started doing that when he was at Leavenworth, and just that became he had the vision, and he went out and created it. And Aaron, much the same way.
Hmm.
They think the same way, and I think the fact that you guys all have met up is really cool, because
Hmm.
the mindset, the beliefs, the goal setting, all those things that you guys, and you're talking to kids and talking to them about this, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go into the juvenile center. So the thing is, I was on probation. So when I launched this book like 2 years ago, my PO, she was happy for me, but she didn't want me dealing with felons. So it was like a hurdle. Like I got this great idea. Like these guys, we can help these guys.
And
So
I
she was.
think I think Donald, that's like one of the craziest rules in all of. I mean, you and I are sitting here talking, and people who've gone through the experience can help other people that have gone that are getting out or getting ready to go in. All those different things. It's crazy that it's one of those things where some people enforce that and some people don't do anything with that as far as probation and the system. It's one of those things that just needs to be whited out, just be
Yeah.
done with.
Yeah, like it, I understand why they throw it in there so they can enhance you if you do something
Yeah.
stupid. But if they know, like, we not doing nothing stupid, like we on a podcast together, why can't we be,
Right.
talking? You know what I
Right.
mean? So, yeah, she was against it. So Cardell and Aaron was going into prisons back then,
Hmm.
and they invited me to come with them to teach this real estate stuff. And she was like, "Nah, I don't want it." So yeah, that led me down to the juvenile center, talking to kids and going into the high schools and stuff like that. So that was the route I took because it was the only route I could take. But and I love the kids, and they do need to hear this success stories and what they can do right now. But it's the way I'm teaching it is more geared towards actionable steps.
Hmm.
So I can't tell a kid about going into a bank right now, getting a mortgage
Hmm.
because they not old enough. So they should know it, but this is more geared towards the people that can do it right now.
Hmm.
Like sit down right now, go on this, fill this out. You know what I mean? Actionable steps.
Absolutely. Second Chance LLC. What's all involved with that?
Okay, so I created Second Chance. Um, it was about two and a half years ago. So what the vision was to when it was real estate, right? So now I got all of these. Okay, so over time, I actually ended up acquiring more properties.
Yeah.
So I have 15 now.
Hmm.
So over time, I was like, man, I can help these guys. I can give them a place to live.
Hmm.
I got a book where I can teach these guys this stuff.
Hmm.
And my all my properties need work and lawns cut and things like that, so I can get these guys a job.
Hmm.
So it's like a trifecta of helping these guys.
Yeah. Really smart.
So yeah, so I haven't been able to promote it and actually do it like I want to because I was still on probation, but now I'm off probation. Now I can put these guys in these cribs.
That's
Like
awesome.
I had a couple of them living there, but I just didn't tell her. But now, as they start turning over, now I know who my targets is that I want to put in these places,
Right.
and then give them jobs like cutting grass or helping me out whenever I need some
Yeah.
painting done or something like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. And um, that's the only thing. That's the only way change happens. Donald,
Hmm.
is people see something. It's a problem, and they go take actionable steps, and now you're providing an opportunity for guys that can get into a place and with somebody that can actually teach them things and they can earn a little bit of money. I love it. It's
Hmm.
those are the things that make a difference.
Yeah, man.
They really do. So what are you going to do with, now that you're off probation, you went down to Little Rock, with Kardell and Aaron. Is that what you see yourself doing more of?
Oh yeah. So like I said, they wanted me to go into prisons with them back then. So now it's all locked in. Like I already got the deal signed with the prisons. I'm about to. They just bought a whole bunch of my books and seeded them in their prisons.
Yeah.
So now I'm about to start going into these prisons teaching this stuff. So that's what's in the works right now. But yep, overall, eventually I'm about to travel. Like I never traveled for fun, for business. Like I never traveled when I was doing dumb
Yeah.
stuff, So now I get to. So yeah, that's what I'm about to do.
Well, the good thing is this show goes into 1,100 prisons, so they're going to hear about Donald Hinton
Oh,
right
for
here.
real?
Here we are.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a Dovo platform. They when I first got started with them, I think it was 250 prisons, and now they're in 1,100 prisons across the
Okay.
United States. So welcome back, Donald Hinton, to the population of where you're going to go and what you're going to do.
Okay. Yeah. The goal was to get the books in there. Now I'm in there too. So
Yeah, that's
yep,
fantastic.
all work like it's supposed to.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Donald, what do you think after where you are right now and all the different things that you've gone through?
Hmm.
What do you think's your biggest takeaway through all of it?
Keep going
Keep going.
because I done went through business, like legit business. Man, this stuff is hard, So people don't understand like ups and downs, like broken promises. People like real estate, for example. People is not gonna pay you. They gonna not pay you. You know what I mean? So you gotta do evictions and stuff like that. Real estate is
Not easy.
it's not easy at all. I'm glad I did it,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't have changed nothing that I did, but it I would have did it a little bit. Now I know whenever I'm teaching these guys to do it a little bit different, you know.
You got two sons, 16 and 14.
Hmm.
What do they think of dad?
Man, they know like they love it. Like I can call him right now and be like, "Hey man, what's the price of silver?" He goes, $32. So I bought him some silver, bought him some gold, and I teach him like, man, you see how your money is increasing and decreasing, like just showing him, you know, giving him some tangible assets that he
Yeah,
can, watch and play with and understand. So that was something we was never taught. So
I
by me
love that.
showing him that, showing him like going into these houses, we go into the houses and we do work. So he's seeing that, and um,
Role
yeah,
model stuff.
yeah, man, yo, I couldn't be there. I messed up, and I apologize to him for it, but now I can make up for it in what I lack,
Well, and I think it means a lot to kids to see, because I've talked to a lot of people that have kids and they see their parents go through what we've gone through, and I always say this. I'm kind of like a broken record, but there's two ways to go with it, Donald. You can be a victim or you can be a survivor. And I think kids, if they see their parents step up, step out, and survive and grit it through, there's a certain thing they learn from that. The victimhood thing, they learn that too. And I think what I love about your story is that, man, it hadn't been easy at all. None of it was easy, but you gritted it out. You When you got to a certain point, you didn't quit. You kept stepping in through it, and that's surviving. And you keep learning. You keep getting better at it. And man, that's what life's about.
That's what it's about. It's about that journey, not the destination.
Right. Exactly. Well, I'll tell you, I was looking forward to this interview because I love stories where somebody doesn't have a direct line to anything. It's a roller coaster ride, but you never stop, never give up. And Donald, I think you're going to go on and do some things, man. I really do. I think you're all about not just ideas, but action. And you put those two things together and you don't lose hope. That can put fuel in the tank for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Well, I want to thank Homestead Financial Home Mortgage. You know, they let me use all this fancy stuff here in the studio. If you've got home mortgage needs out there, Greg Afdiev is your guy. He knows all of his stuff. And we're talking about books. Go out and get the From Prison to Properties on Amazon. And while you're there, go ahead and get Nightmare Success is my book. And it's on Barnes and Noble too. If you got time, leave a review on Apple. It's a great thing to help the show. If you want to know more about what I'm doing, go to BrentCassity.com. That's spelled wrong. I spell it with a TY, not a DY. As I used to say when I was writing my emails and letters back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Donald Hinton, man, thanks so much for being a guest here today.
No problem, man.
Nightmare Success, in and out.